Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hello and welcome to Empire Builders. Now, most people that invest in property stick to residential real estate as it's often seen as a safe and solid investment that almost everyone understands, and there's always an alternative. Now, joining me on the show today is Lillie Cawthorne, who's written a book called The Money Factory: How Any Woman Can Make $30,000 to $100,000 in Passive Income, and it's talking all about industrial property.
It is indeed.
So, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, why do you think industrial property is just such an unknown thing, especially to the typical type of mum and dad?
Well, you don't hear it being talked about. You don't see it in the paper. When you go through any real estate paper, you see commercial, but you don't see industrial. So I think there's this concept. It's a very Charles Dickens word, industrial, and people conjure up big red smoky buildings and lots of men in hard hats, and they just straight away go, oh my God, I'm not going there, that's too hard. It's under the radar, and it certainly was under the radar for me. I've invested in residential real estate since I was 20 years old, but I got into industrial when I came to Australia on holiday 17 years ago and met my husband, who was an industrial real estate salesman. So
that was your into the industry.
Oh, what's that? You know, and that's how I understood what it was all about.
And has there been quite a stigma with females as well? Like, I mean, there'll be a lot of female renovators on the TV shows, but female within industrial, then that's probably a big barrier to a lot of people coming in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't really go and renovate a factory. You can't have the same sort of interior design fun with a factory that you can with a house. So it's possibly less appealing to women. The factories have to be very ordinary, plain, appeal to a wide variety of businesses, or you're cutting down your chances of what sort of tenant is going to take over your building. But I think it just doesn't sound sexy, does it? You know, what do you do? Well, I invest in industrial real estate, and this glaze comes over the eyes, and people don't really understand what it means. So I say I buy small factories to make passive income, because that's really all it is.
And I guess for a lot of people then, look, if you're earning the money, who cares what your product is or effectively what assets you've invested in?
Particularly for a great retirement investment, and I think that's the key. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't even go and visit my factories. I've had some of them for nearly 17 years. Two have got the same tenant in them, but I've got fabulous asset managers that just run the whole thing for me, and all I do is look at my bank account every month and see how much rent went in and do my bank recs.
And that's the way property investing should be. It should be effectively Excel spreadsheeting in a way. Because again, I mean, you mentioned you got residential and they're overseas, so yes. I assume you wouldn't be going to see those either.
No, absolutely. In fact, we've never even seen them. So we've bought them sight unseen. And the hardest part when you do that sort of thing is to find the right team that you can trust. That's the part that takes the time. Because without a really great agent, asset manager, property manager, if you're not there, you can't drive past and see if the letterbox has been vandalised or a window's broken or anything like that. So I really rely heavily on a team of experts. I call myself an investor, not an expert, and I just have 5 great people that keep me really informed of what's going on in the market that I want to invest in.
And I think that's a classic comment of saying about the letterbox being trashed or a window broken or something, because that's the thing where a lot of people do sell their properties because they saw it's unkept, but it's an emotional thing.
It totally, with residential, that's exactly what it is, and that's happened to me. I've rented several properties to friends, to highly recommended people, to people with great references, and I have never ever had a good residential tenant that I've been happy with, and the returns are lower. You don't get the same money back. You still have to pay your bills. You have to pay the water bill, the tax. If you push the rent up too high, they won't rent your property anyway. They don't stay as long. They don't care about your property. They're not going to weed the garden or mow the lawn. So you've got to pay for a contractor to go and do that, and all these things take away from your investment. Whereas in industrial, all of that is all taken care of by the tenant. So your lease agreement is longer and your income that comes into your bank account is net. so you can budget exactly what's going to happen with your investment money.
So certainly one of the main differences between residential and industrial is with residential, you pick up the bills as the landlord, whereas with the business, then effectively they do that. What are some of the other key differences, and especially maybe around growth and yields?
Okay, so particularly what we've been seeing here in Australia at the moment, it's been different in America where we have investments, but here at the moment, you do not, the industrial properties don't go up in capital value like you see happening with residential. So you can buy a residential property here and almost double your money in 5 years, but that doesn't happen with the factories. So when you buy a factory, you're doing it long term, you're doing it to keep a good tenant in there and to get your income from the tenant. So sure, yes, your building will eventually go up, and we're actually experiencing that here at the moment. Building prices are going up, but the beauty is in the income from the tenant. I relate my tenants to a marriage. It's long term. You have to look after each other, respect each other, have a bit of give and take. In hard times, cut them some slack on the rent. In good times, the rent will go up, they get that. But it costs them a lot of money to set up in your building, and it will cost them a lot of money to move. So you don't want to really get into that divorce situation happening with your tenant.
Now, again, a lot of this doesn't sound sexy, and I'm sure to a lot of women it doesn't sound sexy. So I guess what ways could the asset class be? People see it slightly differently to be more appealing.
I think you have to set your goal of what you want to do for your future. And for me, it was just all about when do I want to retire and how much money do I want to retire on? And therefore, how many factories will I need to support that so that I can stop working, but that money will still drop into my bank account. So a little factory that I bought 17 years ago for $225,000 is putting net into my bank account just over $3,000 a month. So it can turn sexy very quickly if you do the maths and multiply it. So if you've got 10...
Because suddenly you need a few of those, and it's the same as having a job.
That's exactly right. More. If you can, over your working lifetime, get 10 of them, that's $30,000 a month in your bank account.
And so if people think about that, they're still going to think about industrial, and they're thinking about dirty old factories.
Yes.
How can you kind of demystify it to say, look, it's not that bad and it doesn't really matter?
Yes. Look, I'm hoping my book will do that because, as I say, I've got cute little unit factories. You could live in them. You're not allowed to, but you could. But I actually think a lot of the responsibility has to land on the media. I think the media should stop lumping industrial under commercial. And I also think it has to land on the agents, and they should not only advertise where men look for investment opportunities. They should put a little advertisement in a place where a woman reads, a woman's magazine or an online site that women go to, and it should say, cute little new factory, tenant already installed, netting $2,500 a month. I mean, that would make the girls sit up and look.
Because I guess what do the other females think about you when you say that you're in industrial, and I guess what do the guys think when you maybe turn up in a suit and look there and say, yeah, I'm an industrial property investor?
Well, interestingly enough, I get just as much interest from men as I do from women. My book is aimed at women, and that's another story. There's a reason for that. But of course, anyone can do this. And there are men doing it, but it's still a niche market even for men. So absolutely anybody at all, male, female, transgender, it really doesn't matter. You can get involved in this, and it can be made to be quite sexy, particularly when you realise that once you've saved your money, got your finances in place and bought your factory, and if you give it to the correct people to manage for you, you never have to go near it again. You just get your money coming in.
And so why have you specifically gone after the kind of female market?
Well, that's a funny little story, because when my publisher wanted me to write the book, he said, your book is your business card, so write about your business. And my husband has an absolutely fabulous industrial real estate agency here in Australia. It was the one he was working for when I first met him. So our first goal was, when we decided to marry and pool our resources, is that we would buy it. So we achieved that, and at the same time I started buying the little factories on the side. So I went home really excited, saying, I've met this publisher and he wants me to write my book. I'm so excited. At last I'm going to write about, what we do. And he looked at me and he said, you are not writing about my business. Well, you can imagine my reaction to that, because I thought it was our business. All my energy and money and time had gone into backing him to get it going.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.